Hi, this is AJ. Welcome to episode 144 of Here's What I Watched. In this episode, I want to talk about the Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy movie The Gorge, which was directed by Scott Derrickson. I did like the movie, maybe not quite as much as I wanted to like the movie, and it's nowhere near the best thing that Scott Derrickson has ever directed, but I did like it enough, and it did work for me well enough as a movie, despite the problems I have with it, that I would recommend it. And what the movie's about? Well, it's about a former Marine who suffers from PTSD, who gets assigned to guard a tower on the west side of a mysterious gorge, and a Lithuanian woman that frequently works as a government assassin for the Kremlin, who gets assigned by the Russians to guard the tower on the east side of the gorge. And they're both very good shots, but neither of them are given a whole lot of information here. They're not even told where they are. They can make an educated guess on what part of the world they're in, but that's about it. All they really get told is to not communicate with each other and to shoot anything that tries to come out of the gorge. Why they get told not to communicate with each other, I'm not sure, because you think if their job was important enough for all this secrecy, you might want to have them coordinating with each other a little bit just for the sake of making sure they're doing it right. But there's not a whole lot to do there besides looking through their binoculars, so of course they do eventually start to communicate by holding up these little signs for each other. And that's the best part of the movie, I think. We have these two characters developing a sort of long distance romance with each other through these little notes they're writing for each other. I thought they actually had some pretty good chemistry with each other in those scenes. Maybe less so later on when they're actually face to face with each other, but lots of chemistry in those scenes. And I found myself rooting for them and rooting for their relationship. And I found myself really invested in the idea of the gorge in those early scenes and the mystery of it. At one point, someone refers to it as the door to hell, which is a great setup. I mean, you really make me want to see where you're going to go with the story when you say something like that. But once the two of them end up down inside the gorge, dealing with what's down there, the movie shifts away from that potentially otherworldly or Lovecraftian setup and becomes something more like a Resident Evil film. Not a bad one, but not quite what I was expecting. But I do recommend The Gorge because I stayed invested in the characters and I like the payoff, if not as much as the setup, and I love the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.